Imagine being labeled as a failure just because you don't fit the mold, mocked and judged for coming from a humble background while surrounded by wealth and privilege. Now imagine the tables turning in the most epic way possible when the very person everyone underestimated suddenly becomes the hero of the day. You won't believe how one student's life changed overnight, leaving everyone speechless. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping story, let us know where you're watching from today. And if you love stories that break stereotypes and prove that hard work always pays off, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out. It was just another ordinary morning at Ridgewood High, a well-regarded school on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado. The corridors echoed with the sound of lockers slamming and students chattering, their voices blending into a symphony of youthful energy. Groups of friends clustered together, gossiping about the latest social media drama or hastily finishing up homework that had been forgotten the night before. But for Ethan Blake, the morning was anything but typical. Ethan wasn't like the other students. While most of them came from wealthy families with parents who were doctors, lawyers, or business executives, Ethan came from a humble background. His father worked long hours as a mechanic, while his mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. Money was always tight, and new clothes or fancy gadgets were a luxury they couldn't afford. Ethan's clothes were often hand-me-downs, his shoes worn and scuffed. He didn't care much about appearances, though. He cared more about helping his parents and keeping his grades up. His hands were rough from helping his dad in the garage every evening, and the faint scent of motor oil seemed to follow him wherever he went. As he made his way to advanced physics, he felt the usual wave of unease. The other students barely acknowledged him, whispering behind his back and occasionally snickering. He wasn't stupid. He knew they thought he didn't belong. Inside the classroom, Mrs. Hawthorne, the head of the science department, stood at the front with her signature stern expression. She was known for her rigid standards and had little patience for students who didn't meet her expectations. As Ethan took his seat at the back, a few of the football players shot him mocking looks. One of them, Troy Bennett, smirked as he whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Hey, grease monkey," he sneered. "Fix any cars today? Or just trying to learn how to spell engine?" The class chuckled and Ethan bit the inside of his cheek, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Mrs. Hawthorne cleared her throat, silencing the class. "All right, everyone. Today we'll be discussing nuclear fusion and its potential to revolutionize clean energy. Now, who can tell me the primary challenge associated with maintaining a fusion reaction?" She scanned the room and her gaze inevitably landed on Ethan. A small disapproving smile tugged at her lips. "Mr. Blake, since you seem so captivated by your surroundings, perhaps you can enlighten us?" Ethan hesitated, trying to recall his notes from the night before. Um, Maintaining a stable plasma at extremely high temperatures and containing it without losing energy." Mrs. Hawthorne raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Barely adequate," she sniffed. "Perhaps if you focused more on your studies rather than whatever manual labor you indulge in, you wouldn't sound like you're guessing." The room filled with muffled laughter, and Ethan swallowed down the sting of embarrassment. He knew better than to argue, but inside his frustration was building. As the lesson continued, Ethan couldn't help but feel the weight of every judgmental stare. When the bell rang, signaling the end of class, he gathered his books and made his way toward the door, trying to disappear into the crowd. The next day dawned with a surprising announcement. The principal's voice echoed through the intercom. "Attention, students. We have a special visitor today. Dr. Marcus Blake, renowned physicist and head of the Global Energy Initiative, will be speaking in the auditorium at noon. Attendance is mandatory." Ethan froze mid-step. Dr. Marcus Blake, his uncle. It had been years since he'd last seen him, ever since the family fallout. Marcus had always been the brilliant one, the prodigy who left their small town to become a world-renowned scientist. Ethan remembered being in awe of his uncle when he was little, but after Marcus became famous, he rarely came around anymore. By noon, the entire school was packed into the auditorium. Mrs. Hawthorne sat in the front row, clearly eager to meet the scientific legend. Ethan slipped into a seat at the back, hoping to stay unnoticed. Dr. Blake took the stage, tall, confident, with a commanding presence. His voice resonated with calm authority as he spoke about sustainable energy solutions and the future of clean power. The students listened, captivated by his insights and charisma. Near the end of his presentation, Dr. Blake glanced around the room, and his gaze landed directly on Ethan. A flicker of recognition crossed his face, and he gave a slight nod before finishing his speech. As applause thundered through the hall, Dr. Blake stepped down from the stage, making a beeline for the back where Ethan sat. Mrs. Hawthorne's eyes widened as she noticed his trajectory. "Ethan?" Dr. Blake greeted him warmly, clapping him on the shoulder. "I didn't know you were studying here. How's school treating you?" Ethan shrugged, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's all right." Mrs. Hawthorne approached, her posture suddenly respectful. "Dr. Blake, it's an honor to have you here. Ethan is one of our students," she said, attempting to sound proud. Dr. Blake raised an eyebrow. "One of your students? You mean one of the brightest minds in your class?" The teacher hesitated, unsure how to respond. "Well, Ethan has potential, but he often struggles to keep up." A faint smile touched Dr. Blake's lips. "Struggles? Funny considering he's been helping me analyze experimental data on plasma stabilization for my latest project. He's practically solving equations that some of my colleagues can't even comprehend." Gasps and murmurs filled the room as students exchanged shocked glances. Mrs. Hawthorne paled. I wasn't aware." Dr. Blake's voice hardened. "Perhaps you should be more aware of your students' talents instead of making assumptions based on their backgrounds." He turned back to Ethan, placing a supportive hand on his shoulder. "I came here not just to speak, but to offer you a research internship at the Institute. You've earned it, kid." Ethan's eyes widened, disbelief written across his face. Are you serious?" Dr. Blake grinned. "Dead serious. Your work on the data simulations has been nothing short of brilliant." Mrs. Hawthorne struggled to regain composure, her pride visibly crumbling. "Ethan, I didn't know." Ethan just looked at her, a calm confidence now replacing his earlier discomfort. "Respect isn't something you just give to those who look the part," he said quietly. "Sometimes it's earned by seeing past appearances." From that day forward, everything changed. Word spread quickly about Ethan's incredible opportunity, and the students who once mocked him now whispered with admiration. Troy Bennett avoided him altogether, too embarrassed to face the guy he'd belittled. Mrs. Hawthorne's attitude softened drastically, and she even began to encourage Ethan in class, but he never forgot how she had judged him before. As for Ethan, he walked the halls with newfound pride, not because of his uncle's influence, but because he had proven that hard work and determination were more powerful than social status or wealth. And when the day came for him to leave for the internship, he knew he was not just representing himself, but everyone who had ever been underestimated. Have you ever been judged unfairly like Ethan? Tell us your story in the comments. If this story inspired you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Story Dash for more tales of courage and perseverance.